Hey everybody, it's Rock Mixer, and welcome to a new series on our channel called Watch Me Mix. So this is our first installment of Watch Me Mix. I also made a video with this song on how to export stems from Pro Tools. If you're interested, I will leave the link in the description. We are in Cubase 12. I have set up the tracks the way I like them, where the drums are the first in line, then the bass guitar, then the acoustic and electric guitars. Mainly all the instruments will come first, and then the vocal stuff. Let's get to mixing. So the first thing that I'm going to do on all my drum tracks is insert the main plugin that I will be using, which is the SSL Channel Strip 2, which is SSL's version of their channel strip. I believe this is the G series, and I'm just going to copy it to all these tracks. And let's go back this way because that's where the drums are. All right. So let's hear this kick drum and start from that. All right. So I'm going to cut at about 25 hertz on the kick drum. That's a high pass filter. I'm going to put the high frequency into a bell. Get a little percussion out of it. A little bit. All right, I boosted the high mid frequency at about 2.5 kilohertz. I'm going to give it a little bit of compression. All right. I'm adjusting the gate a little bit. Now the way this kick drum was recorded, it has a little bit of a weird hum, tone, belly kind of thing that I'm hearing. So I have a couple of ways to get rid of that. I am going to open up a graphic EQ and just try and see if I can. Looks like it might be in this area. Let's narrow in the Q. I'm going to pull that out. Hear how much better that sounds now? Do that a little bit over here too. Just a little bit. Okay. So that's the start of the kick drum. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a trigger to the kick drum using Steven Slate trigger, actually trigger 2. And I am going to browse through some kicks that Steven gives us. Let's hear this. That's not the one. Not the one. All right, let's pull this in. Let's pull this in, and let's see what this is. I don't think I'll be needing that, so I'm not going to take that. All right, let's go back to the trigger. Mixes all the way now at the trigger. I'm going to bring the detail a little back. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the triggered kick drum and I'm going to blend it using this mix knob here, and hopefully we're going to get something good. Okay, that's a good start. Let me just go back here for a minute and see if I can. All right, let's check again. So we're at a good start for the kick. You can do this in any digital audio workstation. These plugins will all work the same. I'm just using Cubase, but it'll work in Pro Tools, it'll work in Reaper, it'll work in Logic. Whatever you use, you can do everything I'm doing here with the SSL plugin and the trigger. The only one that you don't have is the built-in graphic EQ, which is part of Cubase. But there are other graphic EQs like FabFilter makes a Pro Q, which works very much like this. All right, so let's mute the kick and let's bring up the sub kick now, okay? So I don't know why he calls this the sub kick. Usually this sounds more like an outside kick. So this sounds like it was, the first kick sounds more like it was on the inside of the kick drum, and this sounds like it was on the outside. So they call it, maybe he's calling it kick sub, I call it kick out. Because a kick sub would have a deeper type of sound. But let's see if we can make it more subby. I'm bringing up the gain on the SSL channel. I am going to use the low pass. I am going to use this as a shelf. All right, so basically what I just did was just some EQing. I took out a lot of the high end. That's my dog barking. I took out a lot of the high end out. I also boosted some of the low end at about, let's see, what is this? This is about 200. And I cut, and this is a shelf, by the way, over here. That's a shelf. And I cut 0.23 kilohertz, just a little bit on a narrow curve. I gave it a little bit of compression Ratio is 3.7. When I compress something, I use my ear mostly. I don't really look at and that's the best thing you can do is turn the knobs, get the feedback you need, but use your ears. Listen to what it's doing. Do you like the way it sounds? Does it sound like, another song or what have you? But all right, I am going to gate this. All right, so let me blend that with the regular kick drum here. Let's hear what that sounds like together. Oh, that's nice. That's a great start on the kick. So what I'm going to do, and what I like to do, and you can do this again on any DAW, whether it's Pro Tools, Logic, Reaper, Reason, Ableton Live. How many DAWs can you name? I'm going to select them both, and on Cubase you right click, and then you add group to selected channels. And I am going to first of all make this a mono group because it's mono, and I'm going to call this kick bus, and it's going to add another fader right here. So now when I mute that, it mutes both, and when I adjust the level, it adjusts both. And if I wanted to do something else to it, like add another compressor or some saturation, I can do so. But I don't think I'm going to do this on this song because it's not that kind of song. All right, snare top. Here we go. Let's hear what we got. And by the way, I also want to just say that the reason I'm using this SSL plugin by Solid State Logic, and again, you can use Plugin Alliance's version, you can use Neve plugins, whatever it is, but I like to set my digital audio station up like it's a mixing console. I like to feel like I'm really on a mixing console when I mix. Okay, so let's check out the top snare. Here we go. I'll bring the gain up a little bit. The output. Just want to get an idea of this drum a little bit. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a high pass filter at about 28 hertz. Boosting a little bit at 3.3K. Do a bell curve at about 10K. All right, so I'm boosting a little bit of snare at 260, just so I can keep the depth of it. And I will add a little compression, about 3.8. Adjust the release to liking. let's hear what this gate does. Just a little bit of gate. All right, let's take it in and out and hear the difference. That's out. That's what I was sent. And kick it in. Quite a big difference, right? All right, now normally I would add a little saturation to this, but I am also going to just trigger this top snare a little bit. So let's bring up trigger 2 by Slate. Love. All right, so let us see here. No, that is not the snare we're going to use. Let me just see what this sounds like. Let me try this. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix that sample into the original snare top. Let's see what we get. All right, so it still sounds pretty natural, and now we got that sample that's kicking it a little harder. There's a little bit of a ring there, but I'm not worried about that because I think once the rest of the track comes in, we won't have a problem with that. So let's start with that. Let's bring up the snare bottom. Yep, that sounds like a snare bottom. All right, so I am boosting 9.5K just a little bit. I am boosting 3.7K, about 3 dB. A little bit of compression at about 5.1, and the release is at 0.37 seconds. All right, so let us hear that with the regular snare. Oh yeah, that's nice. So that's a nice sounding snare. So now what I want to do again is what I did with the kick. I am going to select both these channels, and again on Pro Tools you would set up an auxiliary channel and send them both to that auxiliary. Logic, not sure. Reaper, I think same kind of thing. And yeah, you get the idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these two channels to a group bus. Cubase has just a fast way of doing it. And I love that about Cubase. So we call this the snare bus, not snare burr, snare bus. All right, so let's hear kick, snare, kick, snare. All right, that's sounding like something now. Starting to sound like a... now what I like to do is I like to bring up the overhead. So let's get an idea what the overheads sound like. That's the left side. I'll bring it mono for now. Let's bring up the SSL channel. I'm high passing at about 24.5 hertz. I'm giving about 1 dB boost at 7 kilohertz. I'm going to get some of that muddiness away now. All right, so let's hear the difference now. This is with the plug-in out. All right, and this is what we did to it. All right, now I'm going to bring in a little compression. All right, that's sounding pretty nice. I think, let me just hear again. Yeah, I like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away this version of the plugin, and I'm just going to copy and paste it over to the right side of the overheads, and pan this back, and let us make a overhead bus out of these guys. On Cubase, I have two options. I can link these channels together, or I can do a bus, and I think I'm just going to do a bus, because why not? This way I keep everything bussed. Okay, so this is going to be called the overhead bus, and this has to be a stereo bus because it's stereo. All right, so now I got control of that. Now I'm going to bring it in gradually just to get the feel of the sound. There we go. Oh yeah. That feels nice. All right, let's see what this room is doing. That's interesting. All right. Let's take a listen and see what we can do to the room. All right, I'm high passing it at about 28 kilohertz. I'm low passing it at about 4.3. I'm boosting 4K with a moderate curve, about 5 dB. Give it a little compression. Let me bring these up a little. Okay, so I'm going to add compression to this. I'm going to use something by Mic DSP that I really like. This is their rack, and I really like this the C671. Let's take a listen to that. I just want to tame it down a little bit. Nice. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy those two plugins over to the right side. All right, and I am going to once again create a stereo bus for the rooms. Okay, and we're going to call this room bus, and you'll see what I do in a minute. I make everything a lot cleaner, and I'll show you how I do that. But let's bring up the room now into this mix. Come on. Okay. Come on, you silly. And back here. Here we go. All right, here comes the room. Yeah, just a little bit subtle. So it feels to me that the hi-hat is on the right side, so I'm going to pan the hi-hat to the right. Let's take a listen to what we got for the hi-hat. Just going to make a couple of quick adjustments here. I'm high passing at 213 hertz. Giving it a little bit of compression. All right, let's see what we got. Nice. So we're just helping it out here a little bit with the hi-hat channel. Now I also have a ride and auxiliary hat channel. I don't even think I'm going to use it. Let me see. Yeah, I'm not loving the way that sounds. It's more like an annoying ring sound I'm getting out of this ride mic, and I think it sounds fine what I have coming out of the overhead. So I'm going to actually remove that track so it doesn't get in my way. I'm definitely not going to use it because it doesn't sound good to me, and I have enough out between the room and the between the rooms and the overheads. I have enough of that. All right, let's work on the toms and see what we can get out of the toms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a loop for the toms right here. Let's just see what we have. And if they sound good, we'll use them. If not, I will have to trigger them. All right, here's the loop. All right, let's solo these and let's see what we got. We'll pan them accordingly. Let's see what we got here. See what they sound like. I'm going to bring them all up to unity gain. All right, so I don't love the way those toms sound. I think the heads on these toms are pretty dead. I could definitely work with them and EQ them more if I had to, but since I am able to trigger, I am going to trigger on this. People, might disagree, but I will get a great sound triggering. So let me let you hear. Let's go with Maple Tom 1. All right, let's take a listen to that. Go to trigger. Let's bring down the detail. Okay, I'm going to take the other ones out. Okay, and now I'm going to EQ a little bit. Going to give it a little bit of compression. Not a lot. All right, so let's do the same thing. I'm just going to drag this trigger over now to the other tom. And I am going to bring this one up, but I'm going to change the trigger to the Maple 2. So I'm just going to use a different one. Here we go. See what that's. Yep. So I'm doing that. And I'll bring that over and let's see what that sounds like. So I'm boosting about 1.7 at 3.9 kilohertz. Gonna give it a little compression. So let's hear them together. All right, we're getting there. Obviously, they're pretty loud at the moment. And let's do the same thing for the floor tom. So we will bring this over and we will go back into trigger. And we will go to browser mode, toms, Maple 3. And switch that, go to trigger, and let's listen to that. Let's hear again. Okay, I'm boosting a shelf of, what is this, about 8 kilohertz. About 4 dB. All right, so let's hear what these sound like together. All right. So I'm going to bring them all to unity gain, and I am going to make a tom bus. And I will work on those because they sound better than what we had. Obviously, they're cutting through, but there's some issues there that I want to address. Let's just see what it sounds like in the track. Here we go. So I don't want the ring to go so long. So what I'm going to do is I am going to bring up my virtual mix rack by Slate. Let me try a Gate Classic and see what we get. All right, that should sound better on the track now. Let's take a listen. And they're loud right now, so let me bring them down. Aha! Alright, so we're going to have to work on the snare regardless, and I'll show you why in a minute. I didn't realize it was a side stick, so I'm going to need to duplicate that snare now that I know there's a side stick. So watch what we do. We're going to duplicate this track. I'm not going to call it snare. I'm going to call it SS for side stick. I'm going to bring that over here. Come on. Oh, I can't do that. I got to move it here because this is Cubase. I'm going to get rid of the trigger. I'm going to solo. I'm going to take away the gate. Very little gate anyway. All right, I'm just tweaking a little bit for this because it's different than the, since it's a side stick. All right, so what I have to do now is, watch this. Okay, let me just see again. Yeah, hold on. Why is that kick so pumping now? All right, so that's when the side stick starts. Side stick, I can't even say it. Side stick starts. So what I'm going to do here is get rid of the snare top trigger. I'm just going to delete it for that part. Okay, so here we go. And I have to look if it does it anywhere else in the song. Okay. Side stick, okay. And does it do side stick again? Okay, let's see if it does. Doesn't look like it. And let's get rid of it from this point on. Yeah, it can get a little confusing, but it happens. All right. And I could always bring this back. I mean, I could just simply mute it, but I'm just going to delete it because why the heck not, right? That was right there anyway. So, all right, let's listen from the top. It should all be good now. I'm just tweaking, trying to get a little bit of a balance. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, and you can again do this in any workstation, is I am going to get rid of the tracks that I'm not using. I'm just going to keep the buses out there. And it'll just clean the whole mix window up a little bit. And now I'll get rid of that. Okay. And as you can see, we've done that. And now what I'm going to do is take these channels and make a drum bus out of them. Stereo drum bus. So I can watch this. All right, so now the whole thing is on a drum bus. And what I like to do is I like to use a compressor. In this case, I'm going to use the Magic Death Eye compressor. Just a little bit. Here's without it. Here's with it. And the next thing I want to do is I'm going to throw a little saturation on the whole thing. I'm going to use the SSL saturator. All right, so let's use that as a starting point for the drums. I still need to add reverbs and things like that. Let's move on to all the instrumentation in the next video.